Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
I hear you loud and clear, Coach Jay. How we doing on Super Bowl Monday?
Happy Super Bowl Monday. Hopefully everybody's awake, not too hungover if you were partying last night. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. As a performance coach, I have 4 decades of experience in futures markets, um, trading for the last 25 years. I'm here to share my experiences and knowledge and help you become a better decision maker.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. And you are all the chat. Let us know how you did today. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Maybe you didn't trade today with the Super Bowl hangover. Maybe you didn't watch the game at all and you took advantage of the overnight movement that we had. Anything you learned today, let us know in the chat and we will get into the markets. So, as far as news goes today, we did not have much as far as planned headlines go, unless you are an investor in McDonald's and their earnings were this morning. Um, I don't know what the numbers looked like, but I know McDonald's reported, and I believe they were down. Big news out this week comes out later in the week. We have inflation data, CPI on Wednesday, PPI on Thursday. So maybe the market's waiting for that. In between the landmines of unplanned news that we have. Speaking of which, before the big game last night, the president announcing a 25% tariff on U.S. steel and aluminum imports to the United States. Uh, just not a weekend or not a news cycle without the T word. Anything else you got on the news front, Coach?
No, just that once again they just reiterate these shots come out at any time. If you're slow in putting your stop in, or you're not even putting a stop in, anything can happen in a moment's notice. Protect yourself.
Protect your neck. We got some traders out here. Closed in profit for lazy entrepreneur. Rich Layton got a couple small wins and locked out. Courtney's green. Uh, Violently flat for Billy.
Good.
Sean Glatt up 220. I learned not to be greedy. Green Day mostly gave a little too much back. Speaking of giving too much back, try to implement that trailing personal daily loss limit, right? Where if you make some profits on the day, new feature with TopStep X, if you make some profits on the day, you can secure some of those profits. I think it's something that, Coach, we've talked to, I don't know how many
Yep.
traders at this point, but it seems that any given moment, there's a trader that says, hey, I was up X amount of dollars for the day and ended up with a daily loss limit. Well, now with TopStep X features, you can lock yourself out after giving back a certain amount of profits, which I think is an amazing feature. We talked about it this morning on Fast Markets. It's one of the better features I've seen from a trading platform as far as risk management goes. What do you think about that feature, Coach?
I think it's outstanding. Um, at the very least, don't let yourself go in the hole. So if you're up, I would look at it as okay. The worst I'm going to do is scratch today.
Yep.
Um, I from a lot of experience, it's those runaway days that can happen when you first are up. Like last night, it could turn in a real quick. Chasing losses blows. Use it.
Use it so you don't lose it.
I'm a
Looks like you
robot.
got robot voice. Hold on, let me see if I can take care of that on my side. Give me a quick audio test, Coach.
Check.
Hold on
Check.
1 second.
One, two,
Let's
three,
let's make
four.
a little switch here. All right, go ahead one more time.
check safety for all us older guys. Punt, no tell.
All right, let's see if we're good. It says we're good now. Got it much
Okay.
better. All right, cool.
Okay,
All
we're
right,
good to go.
good to go. Let's get into these markets. There are 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities, and we like to focus on the biggest percentage movers. Today, to the downside, we had soybean oil down 0.5%, wheat futures down 0.56%, and lean hogs down 0.62% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had copper up 2.38%. Micro Ethereum futures up 3.43%, and natural gas up 4.2% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. 420 on the gas. Shout out to Eddie Horn. Uh, S&P's up 0.6%, crude oil up 2.08%, NASDAQ up 1.12%, and gold making new all-time highs. Gold up 1.61%. And the rally is not stopping in gold. Coach, I have an S&P chart up here. We're going to go out to the 30-minute chart. 3 weeks in a row of a Sunday gap down. But this one was a little bit different. What are you seeing on these 30-minute chart, Coach? I got your moving averages up here as well.
Well, you said it Sunday night. No one's. It tells me one thing with these gaps: big money is not loading up in equities. With those gaps, their risk is okay. We gap down, and what did they do? They found bargains instead of holding it over the weekend, taking the risk. It seems to me they're waiting. Um, I think if you look at that, it was bought. Coach, you disappeared. Are you back?
Yep, I'm back. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, very interesting is that first half an hour. That's what, and then, you don't see that too often. An island bar or an island candle. I mean, it's all alone, right? It's in an island, but it doesn't happen too much. But if it happens on a gap, it's a gap we used to call gap and go, and we had that in a half hour last night. Um, to, to a great rally.
Yeah.
The the hard part today, it was boring in a day.
Oh, yeah.
The average true range in the S&P right now is 81 points. The actual range was 82 points. Yet during the day, I think it was like 30 points.
High to low for the New York session was about 27 points. So most of
Okay.
that range was done in the overnight. While everybody was watching the big game, uh, they traded most of most of the daily range.
Yeah, it was so it was a boring day, but there was big opportunity overnight. I think like you said earlier, Sunday night gaps. And we're used to seeing that in natural gas, but equities. This would talk about the violent uncertainty in this type of arena. Big money is not. It's stop and go. There's um, it's unstable, but if you can frame out buying versus selling, like this example last night, there's a lot of opportunity. This this is good for trading, not so good for investing. So, but I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Yep.
Um, how about you, Coach?
So if we're looking at a daily chart, we're gonna frame out a couple candles here on the daily that we're still trying to decide what we're doing with these candles. Here's going back to December 18th, and then we have this gap down candle as well. That was from January 27th. Uh, we're still trading in this range. Now, it feels like we've done a lot of movement in these markets, but
Yeah.
again, we're about 1.5% off the all-time highs in the S&Ps. Um, you know, it looked like Patrick Mahomes yesterday trying to scramble and get away from the Eagles' defensive line, where he's running all over the place, but he's not getting anywhere. And that's kind of what these markets are doing right now, where we're trying to pick a direction, really can't, feels very indecisive, where it's not choosing a direction, but it's holding, right? It's holding in these ranges, um, kind of taking every hit that it can take, right? Some of these gap downs have been, you know, 3% in the S&Ps, and the markets are resilient right now. So feels like all we need is some good news, maybe with the inflation data coming out later this week as a potential catalyst. But in a shorter time frame, yeah, these markets haven't really chosen a direction. We've seen a lot of movement overnight, and I want to go down to the New York session open, where we did take a trade in the house account this morning, long the S&Ps, caught, you know, what was left of the range for the day, and a really nice trade opportunity here if you miss the overnight, right? Ideally, I get long after this gap down and just hold it. I was not trading last night. I was, just going to focus on hanging out with friends, watching the game, and seeing what the daytime presented to us. Uh, and it wasn't a ton, but we got this white line here, Coach. What is that white line there?
It's the 200 bar moving average.
200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. By the time we opened, the New York session was right around 60, 70. A couple of other things that we had around there as well. We had VWAP kind of hanging around there. I'm gonna go down to a shorter time frame now. We know that 200 moving average was at 60, 70. What gave me some confidence to get into this long, once we saw, and I didn't, I'll rewatch this trade as well. I wanted to buy in that general area, but talking to Dolby about waiting for the market to slow down, because we didn't know for sure whether or not it was going to stop here. Now we might sacrifice trade location in that case, where we could have bought it right here at 68s, right at the low of right off of that VWAP, but giving the market a chance to say, yeah, we're done selling here. And this has the potential to move up, especially because in a shorter time frame, if I look at a 3-minute chart, the shorter time frame tells me to sell this, right? Medium time frame, which is that 30-minute chart, tells me it's a buy. So I'm going to lean on the medium time frame a little bit more, but I need that shorter time frame to stop selling. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So we could have bought it here, but there was nothing saying at that time of the day that we didn't just sell through this overnight VWAP and continue lower before we turned around. So I think where we ultimately got in long was 60.72, and kind of just trading back towards some of these overnight highs. I think we took off the position around 60.90, which was a pretty good trade. But then after that, like we kind of talked about, I was done for the day. It was that one trade on the day in this account, um, turned into somewhat of a range bound day. If you're a range bound trader, there was some opportunity to sell up here at these 60.94s. If we look back at a higher time frame, go back to the 30-minute chart, we have this 60.97 level up here. I know Coach Hoop was looking at 60.94s as a target as well. Decent opportunity, but once the volatility slowed down, the volume slowed down, it felt like kind of what we've been talking about. Take your trades and find a way to get off the charts for the day, at least for my strategy.
I find interesting that closing candle, the volume.
This one here. Yep.
And that's why I say that someone asked on the chat why I said big institutions aren't participating in this.
Mm,
And I feel like it's more of a trading market. What do traders do at the end of the day?
Got to close.
Got to close. And it was by far the biggest volume.
Yep.
So the partition, we had a 27-point range in the day frame with the largest volume. I mean, it was air. We traded, it was the market's on air. Um, Very interesting because it doesn't usually it equals the opening volume or a little more, but it was I think 3 times the volume.
Yeah, almost 3 times the volume of that open, and like you said, Coach, it feels like it's just closing volume. I'm looking at Quant Hour over here, And we can see, actually, let me see if I can bring this up. Hey, look at that production value. Looking at the delta numbers from here, that candle was 54,000 contracts traded and positive 401 delta. With that amount of volume, that's pretty flat, right? That's pretty much telling us that there was no directionality in the volume in
Uh,
that candle.
well, so Coach, I think I saw a J trade. Is it a J trade at the lows of the day, or in the middle?
This one right here.
Go to the right.
This one right
Oh,
here.
they're right there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that is one. It's funny. So our initial entry on the S&Ps was at, excuse me, at 6072. Uh
Uh-huh.
we could have took the same trade again.
Yep.
Perfect Dolby range bound trade, but yeah, that's exactly what we got. We got some high volume here. Uh right where we had volume building to the downside. Then we got a candle that was 10,000 contracts traded. Uh Immediately after that volume starts to wane, we see we get below the average. Yeah, you could have bought. The riskier trade would have been buying right at the lows of this candle, but once we closed above the high, right, that gives you your opportunity. We talk about this all the time. It's
We're
pretty nice
trying
trade there,
try to ride the wave of the VWAP. I'm
right?
starting to see that if it gets above VWAP after that,
Just buy it.
buy it above.
Yep.
Stop yourself out if it closes below. But that's a 2 to 1 easily.
Yeah, for sure. Traded right back up to the top of the range, um, and two major levels, 6,100 in the S and P's, and we're a little further off of it in the Nasdaq, but 22,000. Again, I'll switch over to a Nasdaq chart. We are trading still in the range of these daily candles going back to December 18th, right around 50% of it. I like what you said, coach. It's a trader's market right now, not an investor's market. If I was an investor in this, it was just like, oh, well, are we going to move? This is when I start to remind myself that I have a longer time frame outlook on my investments. So I don't look at it every day because we're really not moving.
Yeah. Violently unchanged.
Violently unchanged. Anything else you got in the equities markets, coach?
Um, well, NASDAQ, interestingly, the average true range on the daily is 428. We did
Hmm.
more than that today, 478 actual range.
Hmm.
Um, so that's how much that move was last night. Once again, um, very much like the S&P, but the ranges, it is this one. This is kind of off center. We see this kind of movement to get that kind of range and to have that slow of a day in a day. Once again, it's not just in the S&P. We see it in the Nasdaq. I'd imagine we see it in the other equities. So, um, the biggest thing I got out of equities today.
Yep. Speaking of the other equities, just want to take a look at the Dow because that is the one of the four that is trading above that December 18th range. Everything else is trading in it still, but the Dow, we can see it still very much in a range, just trading higher than that December 18th candle. Go to the Russell really quick, and the Russell still very much in that candle as well. So none of these markets really choosing a direction over the past month or so. Um, Maybe adjusting to the new environment that we have with the new administration. Uh, at what point do we stop calling it a new administration? Right, where is it the first 100 days, and then we go from there. Uh,
I think that's the official, yeah, the first 100 days.
First 100 days. All right, so let's move over to a market that is moving right now and continuing to
Oh,
rally.
oh, this is the grand slam.
Yeah. When are we going to hit 3,000? Is has to be on pretty much every gold trader's or gold investor's mind right now. We are. Let's look at the percentages. We're not going to get it exact, but we're less than 2.5% away from 3,000 in gold. Uh, at this point, it feels like it's inevitable. When it happens, I've heard some people mention end of the month. If we move like this, we might see it by the end of the week, if not tomorrow. But we have some catalysts this week as well that have the potential to move all of the markets that we look at with the inflation data. But man, this is this has been a strong one. I'm going to go down to a 30-minute chart, coach. And with this being said, it sounds crazy, but JD and I were actually looking for a short this morning in gold. It's not a market that I want to short for a long time, but it may present some opportunities, especially how we've seen gold make all-time highs. Right, every time it hits an all-time high, pulls back. We see the pullbacks, anywhere from 25 to 40 points. We made a new all-time high in the uh, overnight session, technically this morning. We made a new all time high at 29.37.9 and immediately pulled back off of that. Uh, what we were looking for was, and I think we just, shout out to you, Coach Paul. The quote, "Does your market button not work?" JD and I were looking for a short. Uh, we traded a little bit differently. He's looking for a 1 minute opening range breakout. I'm looking for three, but same idea. It gave us the short. We tried to join the ask, and the market said, "You're asking too much," and ran without us.
Yeah. Well, I'm a different bird. I
Yeah.
don't if I want in, I want in. If we look at that, one of the things we don't measure, because we feel it if we get in and it goes against us instantly, but we don't recall the times when we didn't get in and this happens.
Oh yeah.
Because this needs to be measured to make that equation work.
Hmm.
Just I guess I was on a floor or when I was mostly when I was a CTA. I need to get in. So on a money manager's point of view, from a different longer term point of view, we used to call it give the rat the cheese. Give him the edge. Here. I mean, I can't catch the rat if he doesn't
Yeah.
bite on the cheese.
Bite your
Um,
hand.
watch you, yeah. But day trading a little different, and you got to do what's you're comfortable with. Um, I always say like, in the Nasdaq, even what is the tick?
Tick in
It's
the Nasdaq is
it, it's 50. Well, 1 point is $20,
right.
so divided by four, it's $5.
$5. Right.
In the micro, it's 50 cents.
Right. If I'm looking to make 100 times that,
I got to get in.
right.
That's my philosophy. You don't have to take it, but that's why I want in. I'm just going to get in. Um, Now, in a liquid market like gold or Nasdaq or S&P, okay, but in an illiquid market, which most we're not trading, yeah, you have to be careful. You can't use that market button. You can get raced. But great call on the trade.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get paid to make calls. We get paid to trade them. Would have been a really nice trade. I think the one thing we could have, if I'm reviewing this trade, is not letting go of the trade idea. Both JD and I had a potential target that we were maybe looking for a buy, and we can see, once we miss that initial move, we have the conversation here about missing that initial move, but we get another perfect test of that VWAP before we got down to our target. It's another 10 points here. So just kind of putting it in my journal and a lesson for traders as well here. Uh, Establish how much room you think there is available in a trade. And maybe you don't catch the first half of it, but we also say here all the time that the top and the bottom of the move isn't meant for us. There was still a lot to be taken from this in the middle if we held on to that trade idea. Now we were, introducing the show and reviewing other markets, so our attention went somewhere else. But there was still a really nice opportunity for a 9 point move here, and a reasonable profit target of the overnight session VWAP, which we didn't get down to, but I'll take 8 points on the way to a target.
Coach, go back to that 3 minute and The low of that move, you said, I believe that was a J trade.
Yes, it was. I think somebody asked about this in the chat. We got spike of volume um, down near these lows. And again, once we get above it, let's anchor a view up to there. Wasn't the highest volume of the day, but relative to everything else that traded around it, pretty decent. Once we get
That
above it,
also made new lows. Yeah.
yep, yeah, it's a really nice trade there. And we can see every time the market came back down here, the market respects that volume. Man, it's a really nice market today. Two-sided trade, where it traded in that range. We established that all-time high. Uh, but you could have made money either side on gold today, especially during that New York session. In the overnight, we had the rally. We can see it off the open. Um, damn, what a move! But still some decent opportunity. These are 15 point, 16 point ranges. Maybe not the biggest range, but that's a decent enough range to make some money today on gold. If the equities were a little quiet for you.
Yeah. Great move.
Let's just take a look at the 30-minute chart real quick. We're well above that 200 moving average, and when we see gold start to do this in the past, there's a lot of buying going on in here. I'll say that much.
Um, yeah, and it's a little extended, but here's you talked about being quick in here. What do we notice when it hits all-time highs? It even did it today, the first time it hit the all-time high.
Yep, 20 point
The
pullback.
buying stop 20, that's $2,000
Hmm.
or 200 if you by the way, trade micros. Okay, let's look at the half hour average true range.
Let's look right around 5 points, 5 to 6 points.
For the half $500.
Yep.
All right. Um so if that you- if one trade and you're wrong on average in half an hour could happen. By the way, this can happen in 1 minute.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't have to be a half an hour. Don't get caught in that one. It's just, we see those 1 minute spikes. The idea is this: need to be nimble, or you need to position size.
Yeah. The market moves down the full ATR in 1 minute, and then you spend 29 minutes trying to figure out why you didn't have a stop.
Okay, I'll end it at that. Thank you. Who's been in that situation? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Uh, Yeah, but really nice trend holding this 20 moving average. Looks like it's going to continue that. But levels to the upside, right? Where this is uncharted territories. So 2950, right? Just going with major psychological numbers here. We'll see on the order books if there's anything that, kind of sticks out as far as, some bigger offers. But I don't see a reason for this to stop rallying from a technical perspective. Maybe, like we said, getting a little extended, but what's extended if they keep buying it? All right. Crude oil. Very interesting here, coach. I got a daily chart up on crude. What are we looking at?
Oh, well, the white line, we've closed above it, and was bought. I mean, it was a pretty steady rally all night and day. Nothing dramatic, but what can we infer? The selling has stopped. I mean, look at the ranges as we got to the 200. Friday was a negligible range.
Yep.
And as soon as we got over the high of Friday, because this has been a consistently big, I mean, it didn't come back. I know I was short. So finally I had to get out, which was
Y-
fine,
right.
but I've been short. It's been paying. Um, but I found it really interesting. Right there, it slows down. Now, right now, is this a short covering rally? I could make that argument. but we're over the 200.
Yep.
So my way of looking at it is I'm looking to buy. um, I'm not going to sell it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Coach. Back above that 200 moving average on the 30-minute as well. We did try to take a long in the house account. I think we sat in this trade for almost an hour and a half before it eventually moved in our favor. I really like the long side being above that 200 moving average, uh, but you don't get to decide exactly how the market moves. We were looking at a 1 minute opening range on crude oil. We know it opens at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Central Time. So I'm going to mark out that 1 minute opening range here. Uh, we took the trade to the long side, had some profits, had about, I think, 20 ticks in the profit on this trade. But it took a little while to get going, right? We can see really no follow through on the volume or buying above 72. It took a little while. Just reviewing this trade as well, because I think, that 1 minute opening range offers some opportunity to keep your risk pretty tight. But we were in from 89s. If I zoom out and look at a 30-minute chart, 2 ATR risk, 36 points would have put us right around that 200 moving average. And then we stay in the trade, right? So we chose how we were going to manage it. But reviewing whether or not there are ways that you could have stayed into the trade, and what we have to remember as well is, right, it's like, yes, I could have put my stop down here, but am I okay now with the dollar wise risk on the account that I'm trading, right? Does that mean I have to trade micros in order for this to be where my stop needs to be, right? Because a lot of times I think the mindset goes, um, I can't have my stop that wide. That's going to cost me a ton of money. Um, but if it's going to cost you a lot, you have the option to scale down, right, and trade a couple micros, because based on market structure, that feels like where the stop needed to go, at least below, in my mind, 7150s, and then we're able to sit in that trade. But you make the decisions, you take it for data, and you move on. Anything else you're seeing in crude, Coach?
Yeah, this like you said, you put on a 1 minute trade and it went for how an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
There was nothing. So once again, going back to the selling stopped. They didn't show up, and I would say this is it was dead slow. Well, it was like that was a classic melt up, like not a melt up, leak up. And
Yep.
then it just because I had to wait for it to settle above the on the 30, and um it did overnight. Oh wait, what time did that settle above?
This is right below it. This is at 3 a.m. Central Time.
Hmm.
Londoners do it again.
So let's frame that out.
And look, we came back and tested it. That was the test. That was the retest. We asked our friends in London, are they still okay with these crude prices? They said yes, we're not selling. And
Well,
we continue rally from there.
it seems to me they passed the deck. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. If you worked on a 24-hour um, desk, from here you would pass the deck to the next with Singapore
Okay.
or Hong Kong, and they would trade till London opened, and then the orders we passed to London, and then and so on and so forth around the world. And that's why, but energy, I still believe energy capital of the world is still London. We've seen this constantly play out. It's really important to see what London's doing. I look at that. I mean, that was let's that wasn't slow. That was urgency.
Yeah.
Um, and it came with the highest volume of the night, that first half hour. So that we could frame in London had the highest volume. So
Oh yeah.
if you're going to trade oil, find out what London's doing. It helps. We've seen this so many. They set the tone.
Set the tone for sure. Uh I'm bullish crude here as well. I've been trying to buy it a couple of times over the last uh, week, taking a couple break-even stop outs or small losses. Um, and I think I was trying to preempt the break above this 200 moving average. We're starting to get it now. We did have it earlier in the week as well. So let's see if we hold, but I'm bullish crude. Maybe back to the highs of the range. I know some of the news that we're hearing is bearish crude, but it sounds like the president might not be getting what he wants as far as lower crude prices. Um, so
Yep.
we will see.
Thus, it starts in London.
Right, right. It's like he's your president.
Uh,
Um,
and also, I just want to explain the differences. Most of the audience um, grew up trading stocks, and stocks are based New York time, right?
mhm,
Commodities don't stop trading because an exchange closed. Crude oil is trading 24/7, 365.
mm,
It doesn't stop. It's the lifeblood of the world economy. It doesn't. So it's really not waiting around. And what's New York going to do? This contract that we trade is on the NYMEX, WTI, West Texas Intermediate. It's set. That's the contract we trade. But Brent crude, I believe, trades bigger than WTI.
hmm.
So they're just going into that commodities. New York is just on a stop along on the route around the sun. It's or on a and they operate a little differently, like gold. Notice if last night they weren't waiting. Um, Asia opened, bought it. London opened, they bought it.
Continue to buy it.
And New York opened, and we slowed down. So patterns to watch for if you're trading commodities. Just get get that in your mind. They're not waiting for the New York Open or the Chicago Open. Movement's on. This is a world commodities trade worldwide. It's something to keep in mind if you're going to trade gold, crude, or any of those worldwide commodities.
Awesome stuff, Coach. I've got a question here in the chat from Dan Trader. If you guys do have any other questions for us, please put them in the chat. We will try to get to as many as we can. What will be the signs that the major players are being active in the indices, moving moving to new price levels on above average volume? Is it very important to know? Trying to understand this nuance. So we are seeing decent volume. If I look, let me go to a Nasdaq chart here. Uh, some of the days. Today was a below average volume day. Right now, is that because everybody's hung over from the Super Bowl? Maybe, but for me, more than anything, it's prices outside of some of these consolidations that we've seen now. We don't know for sure whether or not bigger players are actually in these markets. There's a couple of different things to look at, right? Whether what the options market is doing, because this could just be an accumulation phase, right? Where they're holding the market in these specific prices for the next move, right? Now, whether that's to the upside or the downside, we will see when the chart prints it. Uh, but as far as larger market participants showing a directional bias in these markets, I think we have to break out of these ranges. And really it's above 22,000. It's almost all-time highs, right?
Yeah,
As far as directional bias goes, anything before that just feels like there might not be much of an opinion. And then to the downside, 20,700s in the Nasdaq. What do you think, Coach?
you just hit it. It has to break out of this range,
Yep.
and especially to the upside. Think about. I always think about it is when I talk to institutions, they're going to get capital every month from this ocean of 401k pension funds, insurance companies, they're coming in to buy. And when I say they're not coming in to get short.
Right.
Um, if their money was good, or if they were aggressively buying them, we'd be up near the high of this range. But we've been there for what, 2 months now since we made that all-time high. It doesn't feel like it, but yeah, it's 2 months.
Yeah, it's been 2 months.
So, and we see the kind of action day to day. I don't, I think they're waiting to put big money. Of course, there's going to be some money in there, but if they, okay, let's say I'm wrong. Let's say they are putting money in. I wouldn't rule that out, but it just doesn't, the day to day action doesn't show that.
Yep.
But let's say they are just buying. What are they getting for their money?
Not a whole lot right now. Maybe they're getting good position for the eventual rally, but for right now, not getting a whole lot.
Yeah. So I might just, I don't feel that they're really putting in a lot of risk or allocation. So what would we see? Get up there, settle in with volume, and it needs to break out of the range to the upside.
100%. All right. We got about 15 minutes left, Coach. Anything on your scouting report that you might be looking for outside of the markets we already talked about? I think I know I'm looking at crude to see whether or not this rally continues, but anything else you got on your scouting report, Coach?
Crude was the one.
Yep.
Um, I just wanted to point on the week. I noticed on the weekly and the gold, we've finished higher every week since the beginning of the year.
Wow. That is a
So
rally.
that seems to me it's a campaign. What do I mean by that? That an entity such as a central bank um is buying gold. What was that? Maybe Coach Hoop can add here. There's no gold in London.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a shortage of gold in London. There was a couple of headlines that I saw where they can't fulfill some of the contracts, which Rich Layton says China was buying gold. Yeah, shortage of gold in London. This is 7 weeks in a row to the upside. Uh, I just looked back really quick and counted some of the weeks. We had a couple of other 7 week rallies, but they look a lot different, right? Here's a 7 week period right here. It's a lot more indecision here. This is very decisive. Hoag has been talking about, and I'm interested to hear what Hoag has to say about the delta information that he's been looking at in gold, kind of that unwinding and what that looks like. I wonder where it is now, because he was talking about this rally uh, because of the a short squeeze in the 2750 area, and we're up 200 points from there. Um, but if there's still a lot to unwind as far as negative delta, we could be seeing a lot higher prices in gold in a short period of time. Uh, Billy says
Well,
declining volume, somewhat declining volume, but it's close to the average. Uh, we'll see. This is very interesting. What's going on in gold right now? Go ahead, Coach. You may say something.
it's very interesting. Let's frame out that first week of the year and see if we have urgency.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there's whether that's a 1 minute chart or a weekly.
It's a buy.
But there's no time. There's no action on the other side. So, like you said, Hogue has been on that negative delta. What does that mean? That means there's a negative delta. There's selling that isn't being, I mean, buying that isn't being fulfilled on the sell side.
Hmm.
And if it keeps going, that means someone's stuck.
Yep.
This has all the flavor of someone is stuck. Now, for gold bugs, they've been saying this since I had hair. So decades that certain banks are short the paper gold and they play tricks to keep it down. Is this the final act in that? I could be, but it has the scent of that. Um, it could be a dramatic move, like, which would lead to a blow off.
Yep.
But if they can't find buyers and you're short, I don't know if you've ever been, I have, as a floor broker, there are times when I have to represent that entity that's stuck. What do I mean by that? They'll give you an order to buy 1,000. All right. And this is kind of, so I got to buy 1,000 contracts at the market. I turn around and I know the locals. They're not going to take my. They're not. They're going to race me. They're not going to try and. Their job is not. They're going to get run. They're not going to get run over. As soon as I start that buying 100, they're going to. And if I pay, I say one for 100, they're going to go to bid. So I have to rely on the other side of the paper from the other side, sellers. Okay, they're going to keep it honest. Well, if they're not there, I go two bid. I get like five filled. And the other side goes three bid. I at one point I just have to go, I have to fill it. 8 bid, 10 bid. And then it's coming in on dribs and drabs. I'll sell you four. I'll sell you, and I have 1,000 to buy. And this is happening. Now I'm totaling up how much I bought. I've bought 88 contracts and moved the market 15 handles.
Mm.
This has that feeling. It's not done. Um, there's this is a liquidity trap. The the buyer is bigger than the market itself, and the market players, I think, understand it.
Yep.
Um, it's a very interesting market.
Very interesting for sure. M Ocutan, which session is the most prone for reversals? I don't know that I've tracked that, but I would have to say probably the New York session because of the amount of volume that trades in it. I don't know how many reversals I've seen in, but I also am not tracking it, so I don't hold me to the numbers. Um, if I had to guess, it would be the New York session just because of the amount of volume that trades in it. What about you, Coach?
Um, that's a good question. I never thought of it, so I can't give you a good answer.
Yep.
For us, and if you're trading equities, it would have to me, I would say New York, because you're not going to get that reversal too often, and outside of it. But good question. I would say investigate it. You might find something that's well worth your while.
Teach us something. Teach us something. Dante Sweeney, don't want to keep being the problem question asker, but how do I add the volume average indicator and what are the parameters? Um,
I don't know. It's a big problem,
I
coach.
I said that in a I could say it in a different voice, but I don't want to blow out everybody's eardrums. Because Dante said it in all caps. Dante, if you can, we see your questions. We see your questions. The volume average. If you go to the settings, you go to style. You have this volume moving average button here. You just click that, and it enables it. Um, that being said, too, we're here to answer questions, but I do want to encourage everyone to explore the platforms that you trade on. Um, it'll make you more comfortable in what you're doing. We're here to kind of streamline people's process and speed things up for you. But there are things that I've learned, and you guys know I trade on Quantower, but there are things that I've learned on Quantower that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. And that was from me just exploring a little bit and seeing what the platform provided. And I'm telling you, there's that power trades, for example, there are on YouTube, you could look it up right now. There are 3 videos on YouTube that explain power trades and Quant Tower, right? So there isn't a lot of education on it. Um, and if I didn't explore the platform myself, I might not use it. So click around, uh, when you're back testing or whatever it is, click around, see what your platform has to provide for you. That might help you with your process. How many points is Luca dropping tonight? 35. 35.
Who are they
Easy.
playing?
Doesn't even matter. But let me check actually. But whoever they're playing, he's dropping 35. Uh, they
They're going to
are.
feed him the ball.
Oh yeah, LeBron's just gonna let him work. They're playing the Jazz. Oh, so he might get 45. Uh,
Wow. You heard it here first, folks.
yeah,
at at the buzzer.
at the buzzer. Dakota actually texted me yesterday. He was just like, and you never want to hear anybody get hurt or anything like that. But unfortunately, Anthony Davis got hurt in his first game with the Mavs. So it's looking like a decent trade, at least right now, for the Lakers. Hopefully, AD can come back because I think the Mavs actually have a good chance of winning the championship. But we're not going to turn this into a basketball stream. Um, I'm excited to see them play, though. What Luca and LeBron look like. Uh, 2 generational talents on the court at the same time. One in his prime, and the other a 25-year-old that's getting into his prime. Um, Anything else? Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach?
No, no. I'm.
I think I'm good too.
Oh, let's look at Bitcoin.
His royal, you caught that right. LeBron is still in his prime at 40 years old. Here, here is here's Bitcoin, Coach.
That's a market uh, that just died out. Um, Even that we had that. When we were talked earlier, actually, we were probably still on Discord about how Bitcoin is starting to act like an equity,
Yep.
kind of doing that still. Losing some of what I call the luster of being an alternative investment. Um, but really, as the market opportunity and volatility has come out of Bitcoin, you don't even hear it on the news anymore.
No.
Um, is that stability? Well, I don't know. But look at how that gap, it's just filled it. This is a classic. That's the right one. But I'm going to fill that gap to the settlement from last Sunday. And one right back. All those days, nothing's happening.
Yeah, this is flat.
So we have balance. Let's look at the daily.
Let's look at the daily. Wow. Yeah, it looks like the equity charts.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring this up. Sadly, because if it's an alternative, right. It shouldn't be moving. Let's bring. Can you bring up an S&P chart next to it?
Let's take a look. S&P's on the right, Bitcoin on the left, both on the daily. Yeah, they look very similar.
Um, yeah. So I don't even. I rarely look at. I don't have it as a buy. I want to see it above the 20-day moving average. Um, it did it for a brief moment. But I just wanted to bring that up. Is like we're talking. Crypto was supposed to bring in a new avenue of diversified risk. The crypto gold, it hasn't done that.
Yep.
We just went through gold. If this was an alternative, it would be acting like gold.
Right.
It's acting like a stock. I don't know if that continues, but it saddened me. Um,
It was a great trade for a long time.
it's good. It was like
Good
an
things
oh
have to come
yeah,
to an end.
all good things have to come to an end. Can it change? I don't know, but there's some evidence that it's it surely doesn't have the spark it used to have. But I am disappointed in its value as an alternative. It's just not reflecting it. So that's the one chart I wanted to. On a scouting report, I would say stay away from it.
There we go. Uh All right, we got one more question here from Frost. Hey, Coach Jay, what are the fib levels drawn for, and why do you only use 50%? Uh, so I'm just using the fib tool as a way to measure the high, low, and midpoint of a range. And why 50% is because I've just seen in my back testing and kind of what I built my strategy around is the market revisiting uh, equilibrium in a range, right? So calling that 50% equilibrium. I know there are other intermediate fib levels. Someone in Discord asked me today, can we go through all of the other fib levels? Gonna be honest, I might have to throw that one to Coach Paul because I don't look at them. I know there are a bunch of traders that build their strategy around it, but for me, I personally never found consistency in using them. And that doesn't mean that it isn't there. It's just that I haven't done enough of the work to find how to use them consistently. But I have found 50% of a range being beneficial for me. So that's what I look at there. But if you use fibs and they work for you, more power to you.
I can start doing it, but what I found out fib levels were from I've used them for a long time. Is they're longer term, like on a daily, they hold more value, but the 50% you had it is the most important part of a retracement.
Mm,
Um, I could go deep, and maybe I'll do a show where I'll just go deeper into fibs. But 50% is, it's funny you there, is the most important part of the 50% correction. I'll use a basketball analogy. We're testing a basketball roughs and see if it's good enough for the game.
yeah,
They'll hold it out, they'll drop it, and then see if it comes halfway back.
right. If it bounces,
It's a physics
that's our
thing.
game
Yeah,
ball.
that's our game ball. It's the most common. So I I see a lot of traders for one of the older guys when I was young. They'd always look at the 50%. Even if they were if they're not fib people, they still look at a 50%. That's balance.
Yep.
Um, so
Right. Quick little rapid fire here. Arthur Gill says 50% isn't a fib level. That is 100% right. Um, and I think that might be it. I think that might be it. I got no other markets that I want to talk about. We don't have any major news, planned news for tomorrow. So wouldn't be surprised in the equities to see a little bit more consolidation before the inflation data that we have out. But that does not mean that there won't be other opportunities elsewhere. Tomorrow might be a day where I scan some of the ags and see whether or not they move. I think we do have some WASD reports out tomorrow that will
ooh,
affect the agricultural markets. So actually, let me confirm that real quick. Yeah, WASD corn end stocks, soybean, wheat, all at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're trading any of the ags, just know that this report is out. This is not the normal WASD report that comes out on Fridays. I think this is something a little different. But if you have ever watched the ags when these reports get released, you don't want to be trading in them. Uh, we do have Powell speaking tomorrow as well. He's testifying. Testifying for what? Not really sure. JD was saying that it's something that he does every year.
congressional.
There you go.
Yeah, congressional testimony. It's in the job description.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. All right. Coach, any final words before we go?
I don't know. I want to leave you with what you just said. I'm, I'm just here so I don't get fined. But if you're trading grain, just get out before a WASD number. Just get
Yep.
flat. You're not there for to get in front of that movement.
Good stuff. Trade well, manage your risk, and we will talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.